Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Jazair and One latest weekly news. Here are the headlines. Details to be discussed shortly. On the occasion of Eid al-Adha, President of the Republic offers best wishes to Algerian people. President Tebboune performs Eid al-Adha prayer in DJAZAIR. Government meeting discusses water supply, grain storage, and urban planning acts. For 1995 those not yet enlisted are exempt from a national service. Zionist forces set up attacks across Gaza. UK general election 2024, many issues are shaping the vote. And Russian troops fail to advance as Ukraine garners military and financial aid. Welcome back to details. President of the Republic, Tebboune, extended on the eve of Eid al-Adha his best wishes to all the Algerians, those living at home and abroad, and to the Hajis, wishing them to perform their rites in the best possible conditions. The President also expressed his wishes to the members of the People's National Army and the constituent bodies, the National Gendarmerie, the National Police, the Civil Protection and the Customs, the doctors and all the health personnel.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وصل اللهم وسلم على إمامنا وحبيبنا ونبينا سيدنا محمد ألف صلاة وألف سلام عليه. أخواتي المواطنات، إخواني المواطنين، كما عشنا اليوم نفحات يوم عرفة الأغر، نستقبل غدا إن شاء الله عيد الأضحى المبارك نحيي سنة سيدنا إبراهيم الخليل عليه السلام ونجعل منها مناسبة للتسامح والتغافر. أتوجه بهذه المناسبة بتهاني لكل الجزائريين والجزائريات.
The President of the Republic, Tebboune, also on Sunday morning performed Eid al-Adha prayer in an atmosphere of pity and serenity in DJAZAIR Mosque of Algiers, accompanied with senior state officials, members of the government, and representatives of Arab and Muslim diplomatic corps, as well as several worshippers, also performed the prayer of Eid al-Adha in this religious and civilizational building.
Allahu Akbar. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
After the prayer of Eid al-Adha, the President exchanged wishes with the senior state officials, members of the government, and representatives of Arab and Muslim diplomatic corps accredited to Algeria.
Assalamu alaikum.
Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi chaired the government meeting that addressed several files, including boosting drinking water supply, bolstering national grain storage capacities, and streamlining urban planning acts procedures, the Prime Minister's office noted in a press release. The Ministry of the National Defense announced on Wednesday in a statement that young citizens born before 1st January 1995 who have not yet been enlisted are exempt from national service obligations. And concerning the war in Gaza, at least 25 killed, 50 wounded in a Zionist attack contents after displaced people in Mawasi, says Palestinian Health Ministry. The Zionist tanks push deeper into western Rafah in South Gaza, firing shells at displaced people's tents. The White House has described Benjamin Netanyahu's criticism of the suspension of the U.S. weapons delivered to Israel as vexing and disappointing, as the public rift between the two allies intensifies. Zionist forces have carried out deadly air attacks across Gaza over the past 24 hours, including a strike on a home that has killed 8 people in Gaza City's Zaytoun's neighborhood. The United Nations experts have warned arms manufacturers against transferring weapons to Israel, saying they could be complicit in violations of international law carried out in Gaza.
8 months into Israel's war on Gaza, the bodies of Palestinian children, women and men keep piling up. What was my girl's fault? This mother asks. She was young, so were her children responsible for war crimes. This is the first in-depth investigation by the UN, and the Commission says Israel obstructed its investigations in the last 8 months, as it stands accused of genocide at the UN's highest court. But in Gaza, the bombs continue to fall, and much desperately needed aid remains blocked. Osama bin Javed.
Candidates are promising to fix Brighton's domestic woes as the top two parties look set to lose votes over their positions in Zionist war in Gaza. Across the United Kingdom, a record number of candidates, which is more than 5,000, are campaigning for the July 4th general election. Polling suggests the vote will result in a Labour majority after more than a decade of Conservative rule, and the 5 leaders, including current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and David Cameron, now Foreign Secretary.
So it's been an extraordinary few weeks for Reform UK. The party has rocketed up the polls since Nigel Farage announced 2 weeks ago that he was taking over as leader. Our latest polling suggests Reform can get 5 seats. That's 5 more than we were predicting at the start of the campaign. And they include places like Clacton in Essex, Boston and Skegness, another big Leave voting constituency, as well as Ashfield and 2 more. So why are voters here choosing this party? Well, Reform UK say they want to win over people from what they describe as left-behind communities. And if we look at the places where their message is cutting through, we can see that they do experience higher levels of deprivation than the rest of the country. This index here, it measures things like income, education, health and housing. And Clacton, where Nigel Farage is standing to be an MP, you can see it's the 45th most deprived constituency in the UK. And then on the opposite end, we've got places like Surrey Heath and Mid Buckinghamshire, usually Tory heartlands. But how much does Reform have to offer people living in places like Clacton? Well, let's take a look at their biggest policy on tax. This is what Nigel Farage had to say about it at the party's manifesto launch.
Battles continue in Kharkiv as President Putin signs a strategic agreement with North Korea, which includes a defensive alliance. Ukraine and Russia have pursued international military agreements as their forces remained largely stalemated during the past week. Russia was unable to make headway in eastern Ukraine and even lost ground in its newest incursion in the North Kharkiv region, which was designed to distract Ukrainian defenders.
Russian President Vladimir Putin just arriving in North Korea, only his second trip to the isolated nation in more than 2 decades, hugging North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Another sign of a deepening partnership between the men, with Kim looking for assistance with military technology while Putin is getting a major boost for his war in Ukraine. North Korea has sent millions of rounds of ammunition, artillery shells and missiles to Russia, according to U.S. officials. But Ukraine now getting more help from the U.S. from this new factory in Texas. Here, the U.S. military produces artillery shells known as 155 rounds, the kind they are sending to Ukraine. At the beginning of the war, the U.S. made about 14,000 rounds per month. Now they're at 30,000 and expect to hit 55,000 per month by the end of the summer. But the U.S. is still months away from catching up with Russia, which produces at least 100,000 rounds every month.
We wrap up with the Veterans Club for Information and Culture, which honored on Tuesday in Algiers the actress of comedian Beya Bouzard, known as Biouna, in recognition for her great contribution to the Algerian art. That's the end of our news. Many thanks. Enjoy your evening. See you next week. Goodbye.